So you've got your list. You've downloaded it from the data service. You've got it all scrubbed and sorted. Everything is all lined up and ready to go. What's the next step? You got to actually send the mail. And there's a lot of different mailing services out there you can use to do this, but the one thing I implore you not to do is to try to print all this stuff out at home and peel and stick stamps and lick envelopes and mail it out from where you're at, because that's a huge waste of time. It's going to cost you way more that way. It doesn't have to be that hard. There's a lot of different services out there that can make this process very quick and very easy and really cost effective. And one of those services I want to tell you about in this video is called Rocket Print and Mail. However, there's actually some things about Rocket Print that kind of caught me off guard, not in a bad way, just different than anything else I'd ever worked with before. I wanted to kind of explain that here in this video and also show you just a tutorial on how to work with them, like how to get signed up, what that process looks like, how do you pay for stuff, how to get your mail template and list sent over to them so that your mail actually gets out the door. So if you want to go ahead and skip forward to when I actually start this tutorial, I'm going to include that timestamp right here on this video if you want to skip forward and do that. But before we get into all that, I just want to lay the groundwork and explain a few things so that you know what to expect if you decide to work with Rocket Print. So first off, REtipster does have an affiliate relationship with Rocket Print, and you can get a special rate with them if you sign up through our affiliate link. You can also just give them a call at the phone number on their website. I'll list it here below as well. And just let them know that you're a member of the REtipster community, and then they'll make sure that you're getting in at the right rates. So with Rocket Print, you can send out all kinds of different mail pieces. For example, you could send out a letter like this with like 1 page or 2 pages. You could have a non-windowed envelope or a windowed envelope, depending on how you're trying to look. You can also have a handwritten font, or you can just do a regular text. You can have this kind of stamp where it's just printed on the envelope, or you can have a peel and stick canceled out stamp if you want to. You can also do postcards on like yellow cardstock. This isn't my exact postcard, but it looks kind of like this. This is about the size of it. This one I believe is 4.2 by 5.5 inches in size. You can also do a very similar thing that's white. And one nice thing about Rocket Print is that they've got a bunch of designers that work there on staff, so you're not like on your own to figure out what your thing should look like. I think they'll probably rely on you to submit something just so they understand what you're trying to say and who you're trying to reach. But they can really help you a lot in terms of coming up with something that really looks good. Here's one example. You can kind of see there's like an image in the background and just kind of looks well done. It looks unique. It's not like the same kind of thing everybody's sending out. This right here, this is the example that was in the windowed envelope. This one's a little bit more basic. It's not really anything fancy. I think this is probably what most people are sending out. And you can also do a lot more beyond that as well. But in terms of like what most land and real estate investors do, it usually looks something like that. But if you wanted to do like a full color postcard or a full color letter in an envelope, like the sky's the limit. It just depends on your imagination and how creative you want to be with it. So in my past, I've worked with like Click2Mail or ITI Direct Mail, companies like that that are kind of like this self-serve model. Like you'll go onto the website, you can sign up yourself, you can upload everything yourself, you can review the proof yourself, put together the mail merge yourself. You're pretty much on your own. And if you make a mistake, it's kind of on you. And they have certain measures in place to help you avoid that. But still, like, it's just you. There's not a whole lot of customer service involved. And Rocket Print is very, very different. It's basically like the opposite from that, where you can't even sign up and start paying for anything or mailing anything without talking to somebody, either on the phone or through email. And I think for a lot of people, especially beginners who don't really know what they're doing, they don't have a whole lot of confidence, that's kind of a nice thing. Or if you're an extrovert and you just like to talk to somebody and build that relationship with who you're working with, that's just how they work, at least at the time of this recording. So just be aware, if you want to get in with Rocket Print, you sort of have to have those conversations and that interaction with them up front. So Rocket Print has some of the best prices I've ever seen on direct mail. When I just look at all the other direct mail companies I've worked with to date, their pricing is really good. And part of the reason why it's really good is because you basically have to pay up front for a lot of these mail pieces before you do anything. Like when I first signed up, I was strongly encouraged, and maybe it's even a requirement, to pick out what type of mail I was going to send out. Like whether I was going to do postcards or 1 sheet in an envelope or 2 sheets in an envelope or whatever. Figure that out and then pay for no less than 5,000 of those at a time. And that's not the postage, that's just the cost of production. And those are credits that like never expire. It's not like I need to use them within the next 1 or 6 or 12 months. Like they're always there. But still, like, you kind of have to commit to that in order to get started. It's not like Click2Mail where you can log in and send out I don't know, 50 and just play around with it and dip your toe in the water. You kind of have to like be serious about it if you're going to jump in. But if you are, it is definitely going to be cheaper than a lot of these other mail services. If you just run the numbers between Rocket Print and these other companies, you'll totally see what I'm talking about. I think when you start getting up to the point of 10,000 mailers or 30,000 and paying for those up front, that's when you'll really start to see the cost savings kick in. And remember, you don't have to actually send all that out at once. You just have to pay for it, just the production of it up front. And you can actually prepay for postage as well, but there's not really a cost benefit for doing that if you choose to do that. So most people just don't, and they don't really suggest that you do either. When it comes time to actually send out your mail, you have to do no less than 500 mail units at a time. I think most people who are serious about direct mail marketing and real estate and that kind of thing, that's not a problem. That's kind of what they would be doing anyway. But if for whatever reason you want to send out anything less than 500, I just wanted to make you aware of that. And since the mail piece that you work with definitely does affect the cost, you kind of have to know up front what your plans are. Like if you want to use a windowed or non-windowed envelope, 1 or 2 pages, or just go the postcard route. Whatever direction you want to go, whatever kind of message you want to send, just understand what type of mail piece you're going to need to do that. And just have that in your mind when you pick up the phone to call them or when you submit your information on their website, because they're going to need to know that in order to charge you the right amount up front and get in their system. One other thing to note about the pricing is that when you're looking at the postage cost for letters, the default postage that they're assuming there is standard pre-sort mail, which is different than first class. It takes a little bit longer to get to where it's going, like 1 to 2 weeks on average, whereas first class just gets there faster. And it could take even longer depending on how much mail volume is moving through the post office at the time when you mail it. For example, if you send out your mail in the middle of December when there's a lot of just natural mail volume from Christmas and that kind of thing, it could take a little bit longer, whereas first class mail is just naturally going to get there faster because it's prioritized by the post office. However, when you look at the postcard rates for postage, that's assuming it's first class mail, because when you have a mail piece this small, the post office requires that it has to be first class. So if you're sending that kind of mail, it's going to get there a lot faster than if you use the standard pre-sort postage. And also keep in mind, all this mail is dropped in the mailbox from Clearwater, Florida, because that's where Rocket Print is located. So if you're sending mail to a place that's further away from Clearwater, Florida, say Washington State or Maine or Michigan or something like that, and you're choosing the standard pre-sort postage option, it's going to take a little bit longer to get there as opposed to if your recipient is located in Florida. So just another thing to keep in mind. So another really cool thing about Rocket Print is that in the dashboard, after you've sent out your mail campaign and everything has been delivered, it actually allows you to track the delivery success rate, like what percentage of the mailers were delivered and where they were delivered. You can see all the recipients around the country and just keep your finger on the pulse of how successful was this? How good was my list? Is the mail actually getting to people? Is there something wrong with my lists? And most of these mail houses allow you to track it in some way, shape, or form. Like you might be able to download a report and see all the numbers, but they don't all give you a friendly little map of the United States so you can see exactly where they were delivered and what the success rate was. And when you do see that the delivery success rate is suffering, like when a huge percentage of them is not actually getting to where they're supposed to go, it's not necessarily Rocket Print's fault. Remember, they're just taking the list that you gave them and they're sending out that mail, but it can at least tell you, hey, there may be an issue with your list. Consider cleaning it up better or getting it from a different place or tweaking it in some way if you want to see a better delivery rate. And sometimes you're just limited to the information you can get, so there may not be anything you can do to improve that, but still, you can at least be aware of how much of your mail is actually getting to where it's supposed to go. So when I first got started with Rocket Print, I wasn't entirely sure how this was supposed to work because it didn't have that self-serve layout where you can just create your own user profile and upload everything yourself and put in your credit card digits and like be off to the races. That's not really how it works. You have to go through this process of, talking to them and telling them what you want and signing up that way, either through email or phone. So I just wanted to really carefully document what this experience is like. And if you're not sure what to expect, this will hopefully just give you some insight so you can get an idea for what kinds of costs you'll have to deal with, how long it's going to take to get set up, what different steps you'll have to go through, and can you go it alone and figure this all out without watching this video? Absolutely. It's not really that hard. I was just expecting one thing, or I just had this standard of how this kind of mail service works, and Rocketprint didn't really fit into that mold. So hopefully you'll get some insight in the next few minutes as I show you what that sign-up process looks like. So let's dive into it. And I just wanted to show you the process of getting started with Rocketprint. So originally what I had to do was visit this page right here. This is an REtipster affiliate link. It's retipster.com/Rocketprint. All one word. And I filled out my email address here. Then I had to answer a few questions and actually did a live chat with somebody at Rocketprint and scheduled a phone call for their rep to call me. The following day, I was able to get on the phone with them and we talked about what type of mailers I wanted to sign up for. I ended up buying 5,000 units in advance, not the postage, just the cost of printing and producing the units. The price came out to a little bit over $1,000 for the 1 page in a non-windowed envelope. That was the type of mail that I signed up for. However, you could also do like a 2-page letter in a windowed envelope if you wanted, for example, or you could do postcards, and the price can go up or down depending on what type of mail you choose and how many units you want to get. And so on that phone call, I gave them my credit card number and went ahead and signed up. And then I got this email with a few links and explanation as to what I was supposed to do. And the first step was to create my own online login, which brings me to this page, and you'll notice that it says Postcard Mania. That's because Rocketprint and Postcard Mania are sister companies. I think Postcard Mania came first, and then Rocketprint was like a second offshoot company, something like that. But anyway, so I'm just going to show you what I have to do to sign up and get started. So I'm just putting my email address in there and put my password in here. There we go. And this is what my online dashboard looks like. And the first thing I have to do, it's pretty clear here, we need your mailing instructions before we can start your campaign. So something I noticed pretty quickly about Rocketprint that's pretty different from any other mail service I've ever used before is that it's much more hands-on with the customer service reps at Rocketprint. And I actually found that I didn't really have to even do a whole lot of stuff on this dashboard. In fact, most of the initial steps with getting my letter template and postcard template designs all figured out, it actually happened through email correspondence directly with the person that I was assigned at Rocketprint. So I'm going to show you what that looked like. So soon after I paid my initial $1,005, soon after I did that, I got an invoice from the person I had talked to on the phone, just showing me what I had paid for, which is all good. And then this person, Brad, reached out to me, and I'm not sure if Brad is who you will work with, but probably somebody, whoever your account manager is, will reach out to you. And he just gave me all this basic information, explained how this works in terms of like how dates are formatted in these mail pieces, how money is formatted in terms of timelines, how long it takes to set up designs and get mail out the door, that kind of thing. So just kind of setting expectations right up front. And then in this email, he's asking me to send him my art or my templates or whatever it is I want my mail piece to say. So if we go ahead and scroll down here, that's exactly what I did. And I actually sent him 3 templates. I actually sort of overcomplicated this. I think what most people do when they start out with Rocketprint is they have one mail piece, one type of mail in mind, a very specific template, and that's what they know they're going to do. What I did was I sent them one of my templates for a 1-page sheet in an envelope. I also sent them 2 postcard templates. They were totally able to deal with it, but the reason that's a little abnormal is because when I paid for those first 5,000 units, that was under the assumption that all 5,000 of those units were going to be 1 page inside a non-windowed envelope. Period. That's it. So when I start sending them postcard templates, it's like, okay, well, that's a different type of mail, different type of material, different size, different postage, different everything. So basically what I had to do at that point is, again, one of their customer reps called me just to clarify, hey, just want to make sure I'm understanding this is what you're trying to do. She was super helpful. However, as a result, something that took a little bit longer was getting these proofs approved. So I sent them these 3 templates, which I had used a lot in the past, just with Word documents on different mail services. And what they have to do is then take what I have there and like reformat it and put it into a system that's going to work with Rocketprint. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, but they basically take my stuff and try to make it look as similar to the original as possible, just in a way that's going to fit within their system. So this is the email where I sent that to them. And then I got an email shortly after saying, thanks, appreciate that. We got it. And we're going to start working on it and we'll get you approved tomorrow. So it typically takes about 24 hours before you hear back from them in terms of, hey, here's what we got. Let us know if this looks good. And then sure enough, about a day later, I got this email. Go ahead and click on this. I actually have not approved this yet because I wanted to show you guys what this looks like. So this first email is the proof of what the envelope is going to look like, not the actual mailer itself. But as you can see, that's pretty much what it's going to look like, with a peel and stick canceled out stamp right there with kind of a handwriting font. And no, the envelope is not actually going to look hot pink like this. That's just indicating these are where the merge fields are going to go. So, all I would have to do is say, yep, that looks good. The return address looks good. And there are no phone numbers on this, but if there were, those are all fine. And expiration dates, again, there are none of those here, but that looks fine as well. And then if I did want to request changes, I could do that. But again, I don't really need to. All looks fine to me. And this is just explaining how the different postages work. So I'm going to go ahead and click standard here and then put my digital signature here. And then I will approve this design. And again, this is just for the envelope. So we still got to do one for the actual mail piece. And I did get a separate email about this, but you can see right here, it's prompting me right in my dashboard to just do it right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is the mail piece itself. You can kind of see how it looks. Again, you see these like hot pink highlighted areas. It's not actually going to be printed as hot pink ink when these things get mailed out. It's just showing those are where the merge fields are. And sure enough, these were all the exact places that I had put in there. Looks pretty much exactly the way that it needs to. And I did notice these two new fields in the upper right hand corner, which I did not put there, but that's apparently for Rocket Prints, that they make sure the correct pieces of paper get inserted into the correct envelopes. So that's what that's all about. And again, you can just go down here and verify that there are no typos and all this stuff looks good. I've already looked over all this and it does look good for me, but if there was a problem, I could request a change right here and I'll just put my signature right here. And there we go. So that's now being sent in. And it looks like there's one more here. Again, it looks very similar to the other one that I did. I'm noticing that stamp looks a little bit different. Maybe the difference is whether I'm doing first class or standard. But anyway, this does look fine to me. So I'm going to go ahead and approve this too. So I'll go ahead and approve all this stuff. I'm going to do standard for this too. And there we go. And then it's asking me to complete this checklist. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is asking me like when the first date of my mailing is going to be. So I'm actually recording this as of June 17, 2021. So it's just putting today's date in there. However, today is not going to be the day that I send this out. I'm going to go ahead and move this out to about a week from now. And I'm going to be sending out about 1,000 mailers for this first one. And does it have an expiration date? So this, again, is going to be a postcard, and this does not have an expiration date on it. If I was doing a blind offer campaign for this first one, it definitely would have an expiration date. But again, postcards, not the case. So I'm going to say no there. Would you like to mail as soon as your pieces are printed? I'll say yes. And then what frequency would you like to mail your pieces? I think the whole idea here is if you do have a massive list that you're either hitting continually or that you're going to slowly get through over time, you could specify that here. And in my case, I'm actually not going to be doing that. I'm just doing a one and done to this particular list of 1,000 people. So I'm just going to click other and then say not applicable and move on. And then list information. So once we have mailed to your entire mailing list, do you want us to continue to mail to the same list for each? I'm going to say not applicable because I'm going to upload either a new revised list or just a different list completely. And let's see, I will send in a revised list. So yes, I'm going to say yes to that one. And would you like us to add your name and your address to the mailing list? Of course, I always do that. So I'm going to put that here, my own business address in here. Alrighty. And then are you providing your own mailing list? Yes. And then in the event your list quantity scrubs below the quantity desired for your mailing, will you provide additional records or should we mail only the available records? So basically what they're saying here is that as they go through this list, if they find addresses that are non-standard addresses or that are undeliverable, which is bound to happen with most lists. And as they remove those so that I don't have to pay for them, do I want to fill in those empty spots with more records or do I just want them to send out that lower amount? And in this case, I'm going to say, please just mail the available records. So it's fine if they don't send out the full 1,000. And are you combining your own mailing list with a mailing list you purchased with us? So in case you weren't aware, Rocket Print does sell lists. I've never worked with them in that capacity, and I don't think I really need to because I've been using data tree for that for a long time. I'm just more familiar with that system. But just so you're aware, that is a thing that they do. And I'm going to clearly be saying no to this. And do you want duplicates removed at no charge? Yes. And then how do they determine what a duplicate is, whether it's based on the person's name, the address, or the company? It's a pretty good question. I'm going to base it on the person's name. And then if you're providing your own lists, do we currently have it or them on file? Now, in my situation, I do have my list ready to go right here, but I have not emailed that to them yet, and I have not uploaded it anywhere. At this point in time, the answer is no. And then they're asking me to send my list to them at this email address. So I will do that as soon as I'm done here. And then addressing your mail piece. So I'm going to go person's name, street, city, state, and zip. Most of my recipients here are going to be individuals. I'm not sending out a whole lot of mail to companies. There are going to be some in there, but for the most part, it's just people. So I'm going to do it like that. And then select a replacement for the name in the case that the addressee no longer lives there. So in my case, if that is happening, then the current resident or the current homeowner probably shouldn't even be getting this mail in the first place, because I'm sending this to people who own a particular property in this area. And if that person moved and somebody else moved in, they probably are not going to be in that exact same situation. So I'm just going to say none here. And you'll notice this note here saying you've selected none. If you have person or company names in your list, it will need to be ran through the National Change of Address system. NCOA will update an address if the person or company has moved and submitted a change of address form to the post office. So that's actually good. That's kind of what I want. However, a lot of times people will have done that, but it's gone past the time frame by which they continue forwarding that mail. So it'll get returned back to me. So when you do this, you will certainly get some mail kicked back to you, which kind of stinks because it's honestly just a waste of money. However, when you do get that, what you can do is skip trace those names and try to find where the person is. And again, just sending that mail to the wrong person that happens to live at the current address doesn't really accomplish our purpose either, because that person isn't who we want to talk to in the first place. So that's how I do it. And then if you have a code or special instructions pertaining to your mailing, I don't really have any instructions at this point beyond what I've already told them. Shipping, if you have any leftover pieces, what would you like to do with them? Once your mailing is completed, would you like any leftover pieces shipped to you? I don't entirely understand why there would be any leftover pieces. Like, I'm not sure why they would be printing more than I actually need to mail. Maybe there's some other situation where that would happen. So I'm just going to say unsure at this time. It does say that storage fees will apply. So honestly, I'll probably just say send them to recycling just to skip all that, because that's probably where they're going to end up anyway. And then National Change of Address Service Provider. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and check this and then submit my credit card information here. So I've already got a credit card on file because I've already paid in advance for these 5,000 units, but I've not paid for the postage yet. So that's why they need this to charge me when that time comes. Go ahead and sign this, and here we go. It looks like, I apparently have to type the word none in here. We'll go back down here and sign this. And again, I need to submit my mailing list to them at the email address that was mentioned above. And I also have to make sure that my postcard template is approvable and that I have approved that, which again has not yet happened. So I'm going to pause this recording for now, and we'll jump back when that thing is ready to go. Okay, I'm back, and it's been less than 24 hours, and these are the emails for me to approve the proof for the final postcard. So go ahead and click on this. Take a look at this one right here. And here we go. Everything is looking pretty much perfect here. On this one, there's only one mail merge spot right up here on this side where you see the little pink outlining there. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple, straightforward postcard that says the same thing to everybody. One interesting note about this is that I actually submitted to them a postcard that had dimensions of 4.25 inches by 6 inches. And the dimensions that they're using here are a little bit different than that. It's 4.2 by 5.5. So they basically had to like rearrange this so that it would fit on here correctly, which they did, and it really looks almost indistinguishable from the original version. So they did a pretty good job on that. Go ahead and check all these things, and there we go. Go ahead and sign this thing and approve. And there we go. Now we got one more to approve. Let's go ahead and do this one as well. And this one is quite a bit simpler. It's just a single-sided postcard with a very simple message with like typewriter font. And again, there's not a whole lot of mail merge stuff going on here. Just one for the date and one for the county name where I'm sending it. Otherwise, everything is going to be the exact same thing to everybody who receives it. It's just prompting them to call me or visit my website. As I'm going through this, I actually did just notice one thing that I do need to change on this. So this will be kind of interesting. I can show you what it looks like when you have to request a change. So I'm noticing that this template I submitted did not include my buying website on it, so that people can go and visit that and submit the information there, which is actually very, very important. So anyway, I'm going to just make a quick note about that and request the change, kind of explain it here, see if I'm able to do it. Okay, so I think that's relatively clear. Hopefully they will understand, but knowing these guys, I know that if they do have a question, they're not going to hesitate to just call me. So I'll go ahead and do this and then put my signature here, and they will respond to me shortly and we can get this thing finalized. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on hold again, and we'll pick this back up once I've heard back from them. Okay, so here we are now. I got this email back from them less than 24 hours later, and this is the final design proof. Let's check it out, and let's hope they were able to get it right on my behalf. So once I clicked on that link, this is the final proof, and I'm just reading through this one last time, and it looks like they got it perfect. It says exactly what I told them to say. So I'm going to go ahead and check all these boxes and get through this and approve the design. And there we go. Now, if we go up here to designs, we can see all the different designs that I've submitted and that they have worked on completing with me. But really the next step at this point is to get my list over to them so that they can take that list and apply it to one of these designs of my choice, and we can move on to the next step. So I just need to understand, do I want to send out one of my postcard templates or my blind offer template? And I've actually got a few different blind offer templates, but so far I've only gotten one in here. So it's just a matter of me understanding which template do I want to use and which list do I want to send this mail to. And before I send them my list, I should already have that list scrubbed and organized with any wrong recipients removed from that list. Then I should give it to them with all the merge fields and all the right places, and they would then take it to the next step. And Rocketprint is a little bit different because it's not so much about uploading your list to them or uploading the list to the site and setting up all the mail to merge stuff yourself. You have to email it to them, and then they will work with you to make sure everything is right, and then they will send it out for you. So it's just a much more customer service enhanced process where they really are kind of holding your hand through a lot of the stuff. So what I'm going to do is come back to this email here, and I can either reply to Brad or any other person that I've been working with along the way, or I can send a brand new email to that email address that it referenced earlier, and they'll sort of figure out who I am based on my email address and company name and template and sort of put two and two together for me. So I'm going to start a new email to Brad here. And at this point, I actually already have my mailing list all sorted and priced out and ready to go. What I'm going to do in this example is use my one-page blind offer template. And the reason I'm using that one is because this particular template includes a lot of different mail merge fields. So it's probably the most complex one I have just in terms of mail merge stuff and getting everything to look right in one place. If I wanted to use one of these postcard templates, it would be significantly easier. So the reason I'm showing you this one in this video is not because I always do blind offers, but just to show you, like, if you can get through this, this is about as complex as it's going to get. It'll only get simpler if you use a simpler type of mail template. So I'm going to go ahead and start this email. So just to show you the list that I'm already working with here. So this is not the raw list that I got from DataTree. I've done some scrubbing and rearranging and deleting, and I added reference numbers and offer prices and all this stuff. So I've already got that all set and ready to go. And now it's ready to forward on to Rocketprint. And keep in mind, if I was not doing a blind offer campaign, this list would look even smaller with a lot less information because it's just a simpler type of campaign when you're not including offer prices and all this stuff. So I've got this all saved and set and ready to go. All I got to do is attach it here to this email, and then I'll type out a little subject line and message just to identify myself and what I'm trying to do and which template I want to use. I'll do that really quick. All right, and this is the message that I'm going to send to Brad, who already knows who I am. I'm just pointing out the design ID that I'm referring to. And if we go back over here, this is the design ID right next to the template that I'm trying to use. Maybe there's a more sensible or better way to identify which template I'm referring to. And again, a lot of people will only have one template, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But that's the way that in my mind just makes sense to point out which one I'm talking about. And I'm also pointing out that this is going to be standard pre-sort postage. And I actually already said this in that little questionnaire checklist that I filled out, so he should already know this, but just in case there's any confusion on that. And then just saying if you need any other information to get started, let me know. And I'm sure he will. So I'm going to go ahead and send this out, and we'll see what he says when he responds. Okay, so picking this back up here. So one thing to note is that when I sent that email, it was pretty much at the end of the day on Friday. So I basically had to wait the weekend, and first thing in the morning on Monday of the following week, I got this email back from Brad saying, hey, I got it. good to go. So just keep in mind, if you're going to send something over the weekend, nobody's going to be there over the weekend. You got to wait until business hours are active. And then about 3 hours later, I got this email basically just confirming that the mailing is scheduled. And it pointed out how many pieces are going out and just highlighting some of those things I had answered in that questionnaire checklist thing before, just to kind of reiterate that. And one important thing it's pointing out is that my mailing is going to go out on July 1, 2021. And at the time of this recording, when I got this email, it was Monday, June 28th. So that's 1, 2, 3 full business days away. So that's about how long it's going to take for them to print and stamp and mail these things. That's just an important thing to be aware of. And then I'm planning on like 1 to 2 weeks later, because this was standard pre-sort mail, is when I and my recipients will receive this mail. Because again, I included myself on that list, and I am situated in the same state where most of my recipients are as well. So it's going to take about the same amount of time for them to get it that I am. And if I had picked first class mail, it would certainly get there a lot faster. And also one important thing, if you are doing blind offers, or if you have any kind of expiration date on the mail piece that you're sending out, it's important just to make sure that the people get the mail before that expiration date, like well in advance, so that they don't get the thing after it's too late. And I set my expiration date out like, I think, a month and a half. So it shouldn't be a problem for me, but it's just another important detail to remember. Again, if you're using a mail piece that has that, if you're using a very simple postcard with no expiration date, then you don't even need to think about that. So there you go. That's Rocket Print. And again, if we do have an affiliate link for that, it'll earn us a very, very small commission, and it will cost you even less than normal if you sign up to that link. So again, if you want to check it out, retipster.com/Rocket Print. Thanks for watching, and I wish you all the best with your next campaign.